U.S. Constitution. And I want to say as well, the turnout this year is much bigger than last year, and we're grateful that our students have come, and our faculty and community. And so we want to welcome each of you to the event this morning. I'm not an expert on the U.S. Constitution. However, I'm very thankful that I was born in a country with a document like this. Our U.S. Constitution, according to the U.S. Senate site, is the world's longest serving written charter of government in the world today. And you know, the United States is really a fairly young country, 240 some years. When you look back over history, there are nations and powers that lasted much longer than that. But our Constitution was written so that our country would continue on and on. And the Constitution, the first three words, I believe, are "we the people." And one of my favorite quotes about the Constitution was by Ronald Reagan. And he said, "Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do." And I think that does set us apart as a country, as a nation, and as a people. We don't always agree with everything that our government does or says. No offense, Senator Woods. But we live in a country where we have the freedom to express that disagreement. And we don't always appreciate that, but we should take it to heart and be thankful that we have that opportunity. I want to introduce some special guests that we have in our audience today. If you would, please stand just so that everyone can recognize you, and I'll read through this list. First of all, we have the Honorable Pat Woods, New Mexico Senator. Mr. Richard Primrose, the Chair of our Board of Trustees. Mr. Philip Box, also a member of our Board of Trustees. Ms. Teresa Stevenson, a member of our Board of Trustees. And Ms. Gloria Parker, who is representing the Daughters of the American Revolution. So again, thank you all for coming, and at this time I'll turn it over to Dr. Stephen Edwards.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moss, and thank all of you for attending. It's a privilege and a thrill to see all of you here this morning. I have the opportunity to introduce Constitution and Citizenship Day, and then to introduce our keynote speaker. Constitution and Citizenship Day, it recognizes or celebrates the signing of the Constitution by 39 delegates at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia on September 17th, 1787. And those figures include people like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Alexander Hamilton. You might have heard of some of those people. The Constitution, as Dr. Moss noted, represents the world's oldest codified constitution. Since its adoption, the Constitution of the United States has influenced hundreds of national constitutions. When last I checked, and it might be plus or minus a couple, when last I checked, there are 186 codified constitutions in the world today that are effective in the world today, and all of those trace, in some part, their roots back to the Constitution of the United States. The only 3 nations currently do not have codified constitutions, and if you're a student and you want to guess which 3, then you can come up and see me afterwards, and I'll give you a treat if you're right. It is my privilege to introduce to you our keynote speaker at today's event, the state senator representing District 7, the Honorable Pat Woods. Senator Woods has a family farm and ranch where he lives in Broadview with his wife of over 50 years. Is that correct? How about that? And not one, not two, but 4 generations of the Wood family lives on their ranch, which must be quite the experience and quite the blessing to have. He has served in the state Senate since 2012 on a number of committees and has sponsored numerous water, forestry, and energy-related projects. So please now join me in welcoming the Honorable Pat Woods. Thank you so much.
All right now. How was the pizza? Thumbs up. All right. I find that everything's always better with pizza. So I have the opportunity today to talk to you about probably the greatest thing this country has ever achieved. And you might ask yourself, why in the world would someone write an instrument like this? Or they must have really been great scholars to do this. But you have to remember, many of those guys and ladies came from very oppressive areas of the world. And you see that today with the many migrants that come in to our nation. They're coming because we offer them a better life than what they have. Can you imagine walking across Mexico for the opportunity to come in to a country that you have maybe no family, nobody, and yet our Constitution offers hope for the world. 235 years ago, our fathers wrote one of the groundbreaking documents that was ever written, the U.S. Constitution. Our founding fathers feared everything they had fled in Europe: the dictators, the corruption, the oppression of people at large. They feared this so much that they demanded that the most universal limitations on government power be spelled out in what we now call the Bill of Rights. Their fears of tyranny, oppression, and of a government unresponsive to people, a federal government that is unwilling, overbearing, and remain the concern of the people today. That is why the Bill of Rights and the greater Constitution remains the most important document to the survival of this nation. Now, we live in a very polarized area, fueled by the lightning fast information in a machine called social media. And think about how your views of politics have been shaped by the social media. How many times have you disagreed with a peer over a viewing that you saw on TikTok? I don't know how many times I go to these little coffee cliques that happen most mornings around, and the latest view is shaped by something they saw on CNN or Fox News or any other news organization that gives you information that fast. I don't think that it's bad to get information wherever you get it, but think it through and give it serious discussion. Think about how the impact of that and your ability to receive information and disseminate information has never been easier. There has never been more access to information now than any other time in human history. This is the part of the country I always think of, the great cowboy West. Whenever I come into Tucumcari and I see the mesas, I think about the old movies I saw and John Wayne, all the Clint Eastwood movies and that kind of stuff, and how far it was from here to there to get information. I'm sure a lot of you have grown up around old homesteads. Many times you'll be out there on that prairie and there'll just be a little hole in the ground. Those families didn't have when they homesteaded this country, they didn't have hardly any money. And what they did, they dug a hole and they built a little tent over the top of that hole. And many of them called it a half dugout. But just think of how much time it took to spread information across that area when there was a presidential election, when there was a great war, the war to end all wars, the First World War, and how long it took from information to get from here to there, and how fast it happens now. You can find out what's happening around the world in a matter of seconds. And why I bring this to you is this. Communist China develops the software that you have in your phone, and they also develop the phone. But did you know they don't disseminate that same phone and that same software to their own citizens? Now think about that. In that country, you can be penalized or jailed for speaking out against the government. You can have your transportation limited because of wrong think. And your currency can be leveraged against you. In other words, they watch how you spend your money. This would never happen in the United States because of the Bill of Rights. Your right to freedom of speech is just the first of the 10 amendments that we call the Bill of Rights, and just the first subclause of the First Amendment. Our right to gather here today, our right to pray to God Almighty before a meal or wear a habit, both of which are currently banned in Europe. Our right to ask for a warrant when the police show up at our door. Our right to own a firearm. Our right to a fair trial. Our right as a state to do whatever is right for our people, regardless of what other states are doing, as long as it does not violate the Constitution. We have a founding document that puts limitations on the government rather than the other way around. However you feel about our nation, however you feel about our state, it is guaranteed by that document that was signed over 200 years ago. That's what makes our country great. That's what makes our country special. I can't think of a better place to live. It is a beacon of hope for the world. Our rights are endowed by the Creator. That is one of my guiding principles as a legislator. Unfortunately, I believe the fears of the founders are still alive and well. There is a threat of tyranny. There is a threat of an overgrown federal government very present today. You can see that our national debt of our federal government has created debt for future generations. But I have hope in our people, hope in our nation, hope in our republic, hope in their citizens, hope in each one of you. It is your job to participate in government. That's what makes a democracy, your participation. You need to vote when you get a chance. When you're old enough to vote, go register to vote and vote. Try to figure out what candidate is the candidate that you align with and vote for it. Do your research. It's such an important country, we can't afford not to have you there on the front lines helping us. A self-governing country is something that nobody could believe could succeed, and we're doing a damn good job of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Woods. I think I speak for the students, faculty, and administration when I express gratitude and say what a privilege it is to watch government in action right here, and we appreciate that very much. I'd like to extend thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy day to come and visit with us today. I'd like to thank Dr. Moss, Joel Kaiser, the Board of Directors. I'd like to thank Josh McVeigh in particular for helping to publicize the event. I want to take a special moment to recognize the efforts of Ms. Diane Grapp, who is not only responsible for the decorations and the pizza, but she had originally requested today as a vacation day and decided not to because today is her birthday, and she came and worked anyway because of all the good stuff. We want to thank Ms. Diane Grapp very much for all the effort that she put into this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to one more time acknowledge Ms. Parker from the Daughters of the American Revolution. Thank you. The Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit organization that seeks to promote education, particularly in the founding documents in the American Revolutionary period. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Its current members include Laura Bush and Rosalind Carter. So there are some there's some heavy hitters at the Daughters of the American Revolution. In conjunction with the DAR, we offer complimentary pocket copies of the United States Constitution, which are over here on the table by the drinks. Y'all should know where the drinks are. We have quite a few copies of those, so feel free to take one. Student Services has also provided little posters, Bill of Rights posters that anyone can take, and all those are free of charge. You can take one, you can take both. Help yourself. I'm sure there will be enough for everybody who wants to take one here today. Once again, we appreciate your coming. This concludes the program of Mesalands 2023 Constitution Day celebration. So go ahead and continue whatever it is your day was, and happy Constitution Day.